I had dyslexia, and today I think it has benefited me tremendously just from a resilience standpoint. I don't get bogged down. I will constantly work as hard as I can to accomplish a goal, and I never give up. I was kind of capitalizing on 179 deduction bonus depreciation. So whatever equipment I would purchase would kind of offset my tax liability. So I was reinvesting in the business.
Yeah. That's a very, very good federal tax credit.
I had completed a lot of work and I had revenue on the books, but like I wasn't collecting everything. So, I mean, I can't even tell you how many sleepless nights I had. Just how am I going to manage through this and make payroll happen? It would boil down to me driving around these neighborhoods and just walking up to people's houses and collecting checks just so that I could make sure my people were taken care of.
Disclaimer, the views are the guests alone, not those of the host or sponsors.
Welcome to a new episode of From Boots to Boardroom. I'm your host, Hari Vasudevan, founder and CEO of KYRO AI. Previously, I was the founder and CEO of Think Power Solutions. Not every leader sits in a corner office. From Boots to Boardroom shares the journey of those who power America. From the job site to the boardroom, leading with grit, tenacity, empathy, and vision. Hope you'll find the show to be educational, entertaining, eye-opening, and entrepreneurial. Today, I'm sure it's going to be super entrepreneurial with my good buddy, Matt Cathell. So presenting sponsor for the show is KYRO AI. Digitize work and maximize profits. For more information, visit KYRO.ai. Today's guest is Matt Cathell. Matt started Gunnison Tree Services in 1999 when he was just 17 years old. I really want to know what he did there, right? And then he sold Gunnison to a private equity firm in 2020. He continued to run Gunnison super successfully for many years after that. Matt was the EY Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year in 2022, which is a really big achievement. And he graduated from Middle Tennessee State University.
Yeah.
All right, my friend Matt, thank you so much for coming on the show, my friend.
No problem, Hari. Glad to do it, man.
Awesome. Let's get started here.
Yep.
What did your parents feed you? How did you...
I don't know.
How did you start a company at 17? Honestly, always been in awe of that. My guess is you and I are the same age. At 17, I was barely managing myself, right?
Right.
And here you are, start a company that to this day stands this test of time. What's the secret, my friend? I really want to know because I'm raising two kids.
Yeah. So, Hari, I'll just kind of give you the quick backstory on the evolution of Gunnison and how it started even prior to 17. So my parents hired a local tree company in Atlanta when I was 4 years old. And the second the crew showed up, I went outside and started watching these guys work. And I was absolutely enamored with the equipment and the guys climbing trees. And I sat on the curb and watched these guys work all day long. My mom called me in for lunch. I declined that offer. I stayed outside till dusk until the guys left. And from that point forward, I knew that I just had a passion for the tree business, being outdoors, being around heavy equipment, and just the climbing component of the business just had me reeled in.
Wow. That's an interesting story.
Yeah.
When I tell my friends that, hey, I've always wanted to be a civil engineer, I've always wanted to be in construction, for as long back as I can remember, right? People kind of laugh at me. They think I'm making things up, but it's a very similar story. When we were doing some renovations to our house, there's a concrete crew out there. instead of playing with my friends, I would actually really watch
Yeah,
the crews build stuff out in the heat and whatnot. Right, I've always been enamored with construction
right.
since back then. But you were super eloquent in how what you did back when you were 4 years old. That
Yeah.
is a fascinating.
And
Uh,
Jorge, as you know, a lot of little boys are into heavy equipment and they grow out of it, but I just never lost interest. And so every time there would be a tree crew in my parents' neighborhood, I would be glued to the operations
hmm,
and watching those guys work.
interesting.
And I told my parents, well, every Christmas I would ask for a climbing harness and a fake chainsaw. And
Really? Wow.
and I was so committed and I was that kid that just, didn't want all the other traditional gifts for Christmas. I wanted a chainsaw, a rope, and a harness. And I would go in our backyard and just scale trees and pretend to be cutting limbs. So it
Wow.
was it was just one of those passions. I was just born with it. Um,
Yeah.
and I always told my parents that the day that I turned 15, I want to go work for Odd Job Tree, which was the dominant player in Atlanta who my parents hired. And so, literally, the day that I turned 15, I called Eddie Thomas, the owner, and I said, "Hey, Eddie, I want to come work for you in the summertime and I want to learn the business, every aspect of it from estimating jobs, working on equipment, climbing trees, interacting with customers, you name it." And so that's what I would do every single summer.
What a story, right? What a story there. So, uh, between the time you're four, since you said
Yeah,
you're enamored at four, and then 15, you go and work for Eddie,
right.
right? Is there any other things that you did? Like, many kids start out by, doing lawns for their neighbors or
Yeah. So
things like that, car
it
washes.
always kind of pertained to the tree space. So I would sell Christmas trees. Um, in December, I would sell mistletoe
Hmm,
along with the Christmas trees, firewood as well. So I was always peddling some product,
interesting.
service, and but it all was around trees.
So you're a true tree guy.
That's
Right?
right.
You're so what I really want to know this. So on your first date with your beautiful wife, yes, what do you say? Hey, I'm a tree guy. Uh, what do you say?
Well, Hari, that's funny you asked that. So real quick, my wife's aunt was my number one tree client in Atlanta,
Jeez,
and she would call me. It's like an annuity. She would just call me 3 or 4 times a year just to come maintain her trees. And every time that I would go over there, she said, "Hey, my niece is moving from West Virginia to Atlanta. You should get together with her. She's single. You guys would make a great, couple, whatever." And I was dating someone at the time, and then she ended up dating someone, and so she was adamant about setting us up.
huh?
And so after 4 or 5 times trying over and over a couple of years, we finally connected. And the way that we connected was my wife was a baby photographer,
Jeez. Okay.
and she had a really unique business where she would take photographs of kids that were like in a window of like 8 to 15 days old.
It's very hard.
It is.
Very hard.
But
Yeah.
but part of her, I guess, lack of better words, prop or whatever the terminology is, she had to have a tree branch to hold some of these kids like in a hammock type scenario. And so my wife called me, well, at the time, Facebook messaged me and said, "Hey, I've heard about you from my aunt. I was curious if you could find a branch for me for my photography business." And I told her, absolutely, because I was interested in meeting her anyways. So, so Hari, she gave me the dimensions of the branch she wanted, and I intentionally got the wrong one because I wanted an opportunity to follow up with her if I was really interested in her. So She comes over to my house. I show her what I gathered out in the field, and she's like, "Ah, that's not gonna work." Turns out she was really cute and sweet, and I was like, "All right, well, here's my opportunity to follow up with this date." And so the rest was history from there, but
Wow.
yeah,
That's an interesting story. Which year was this?
that was in 2010.
And she does know this story, right? She knows that you did
Totally.
this on purpose.
Absolutely.
Interesting. That's a very
Yeah.
interesting. Is her aunt still your customer or Gunnison's
She
customer?
is. Oh, yeah. She uses us a good bit.
Interesting. No, did she
Always
get
been a supporter.
free services or? Uh...
No, I charge her probably more actually. I'm kidding. She's pretty demanding. She's, very particular, and yeah, so we have to it's a tedious job when we go over there for sure.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
So that's good, man. So you go and intern on the summers for
Yep.
Eddie.
Uh,
You said,
yep.
right? And what is the name of the company again? Odd Jobs. Is that
Odd
right?
job. It wasn't like the name is just very random. I think the guy actually Eddie started out doing just odd job projects, cleaning gutters, roof repaired, whatever. But he really excelled in tree care. But that name always just
Yeah, it's a great
stuck.
name. I
Yeah, yeah,
mean,
yeah,
it
yeah.
obviously
Correct. Right.
sticks, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
so you intern with him or summer jobs for 2 years. You obviously continue to love it, right? And then
Yes.
you go to
Middle
Middle Tennessee
Tennessee.
State, right? Is that right on that?
Correct. So I was dating a girl that got a soccer scholarship to Middle Tennessee State,
Hmm.
and we thought that we were gonna 100% get married. And so I got into several SEC schools, Alabama, Tennessee, Ole Miss, and I was sure that I was gonna marry this girl, and my dad told me not to do it, and my mom said the same thing,
But
but of course
who listens to their parents?
that's right, yeah, yeah. So I was hard-headed and went to Middle Tennessee, got in a fraternity, and realized that there were a lot of pretty girls in Middle Tennessee, and I didn't want to be locked down.
Huh.
So we ended up breaking up pretty quickly, and I was off to my journey at Middle Tennessee, actually getting an entrepreneurship degree.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I did not know exactly what degree you got. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's a degree
correct.
in entrepreneurship
Yeah.
in Middle Tennessee State. So while in Middle Tennessee State, so you're 17, so obviously you're going to college.
Yes.
And when did you start the company? You were still Middle Tennessee State, right? I
So
get
I
it.
really technically started the company when I was like 14 years old in high school. So I would go my parents' neighbors knew that I was obsessed with the tree business because they would hear me in the backyard, doing my thing and scaling trees and whatnot. And so they would call me up and they would assign me a project or award me a project. And then I would hire my local neighborhood buddies to assist me on the ground, roping limbs down and bringing limbs to the chipper. And yeah, so that's really technically how it started in the neighborhood. And so,
You're making me feel worse now. I already felt bad when you said you started at 17. I didn't know what the hell I was doing at 17. At 14, I didn't even know what the hell. Even worse, right? So
but Hari,
awesome.
one important message I want to articulate here is the reason that I was really driven at that age is because in school I really struggled. So I had dyslexia, and today I think it has benefited me tremendously just from a resilience standpoint. I don't get bogged down. I will constantly work as hard as I can to accomplish a goal, and I never give up. And that was one lesson that I learned in school with dyslexia is you have to adapt,
Yeah,
and things are challenging. And so I knew that I wasn't going to be a doctor, I wasn't going to be a lawyer, I didn't need to get some fancy degree. It was up to me to make it happen.
yeah,
And so when I found my passion, I went in 1,000%.
yeah.
And so
Beautiful.
that's why when I knew what I wanted to do, I was all in.
Yeah. It is such a beautiful story for all everybody listening, most importantly, young people listening, right? Those who are in the business of construction, veg management, or linemen, you name it.
Yeah.
Just because you have some issue like dyslexia and things, whatever
Right.
it is, right?
Yeah.
It shouldn't hold you back. You could still be enormously successful. You
That's
don't
right.
need a Ivy League degree to
Correct.
actually be super successful. Contrary to that, I mean, in fact, my wife and I talk about it all the time. It's like I've seen kids who go to these super elite private schools.
Yeah.
When they're 30, 35, I don't see anything special in them, right? I mean, based on
Correct.
my vantage point, right? I
That's
mean,
right. Yeah.
uh, uh, and whereas you see kids who kind of overcome some adversity, they have the resilience and they have the ability to push through adversity and make the necessary sacrifices, which is candidly, it's all about entrepreneurship, right?
That's right.
Entrepreneurship, it's about, hey, what sacrifices you make, how can you uh, push through adversity, because invariably you're going to encounter challenges, and how are you going to be come on the other side successful. So
Correct.
it's a beautifully story. I mean, I really appreciate you sharing that, such a deeply personal story. But
Yeah.
so some of the challenges there, what are some of the challenges that you encountered? Obviously, you just shared one, but you started a business at 14, 17,
Yeah.
whatever you can call it as. uh, uh, I look at kids like you in my neighborhood, and I'm
Yeah.
willing to give them a business. I want them
Right.
to succeed, right? But you also see others. It's like, you know what, this kid doesn't know a whole lot. I'm not going to allow them in my property. I mean, how did you overcome that youth, if you will, early on in
Yeah.
your
I mean, it
career?
was challenging because, as a 14-year-old starting out and going around the neighborhood, nobody really took me that serious. And were they really confident about hiring a 14-year-old to take down a tree next to a $2 million house in Buckhead? I mean, that takes a lot of coaching on my part to get them comfortable with hiring me. So I felt like I would constantly struggle just when I would walk up to somebody's door and give them an estimate, just trying to make sure that they understood that I was committed to excellence and safety and preserving their property. And that was not an easy task at all.
Yeah. How did you overcome that? I mean, that's a challenge. How did you overcome that? I mean,
I was really diligent about making sure that I did whatever it took to make sure the job went perfect, and then referrals would start flowing through. So every time I would go to a new customer and maybe they were skeptical, I would bring a referral list of clients that they could call to verify that I was legit.
yeah.
And so
Providing a great service, that's
correct.
a great start, obviously, right?
Right.
And your customer is your most important salesperson,
That's
right?
right.
As an entrepreneur, you service your existing customer as well.
Yep.
They become a great source of referral, and because you don't have to give somebody else a discount to earn their business.
That's right.
Somebody else says, hey, Matt is a great guy, you got to work with them. And most people value trust, and
Yeah.
they trust people that they know, and they're going to give you a business, so you don't spend on marketing dollars to earn more business.
Right.
It's a easier way to sell. Is that a fair way to put it?
Totally. Yes,
Yeah.
for
So
sure.
you do that, you keep building it, and I guess you were still going to school, right? Because you
I
finished your degree.
was. So, just a quick kind of background on that. I went to a school in Atlanta, Georgia, Woodward Academy. It's a well-known school in College Park, Georgia. My sophomore year, because I was just school was very challenging for me and I wasn't interested in it. And I think that was a major part of why it was challenging for me. I wanted to be outside. I went to a school on the Emory campus in Atlanta called Ben Franklin Academy.
Hmm.
And Ben Franklin Academy was a work study program. So the way that it was structured was you went to school from 8 to 12, purely academics, and then you were required to have a job and work 30 hours a week.
Hmm.
And so it was an exceptional fit for me because that's what I was looking to do. And so initially, I actually started working at a car wash and I was making like $5 an hour. And I knew that I was not satisfied with that whatsoever. And so I went to the headmaster of Ben Franklin, Wood Smithers was his name. And I said, "Hey, Wood, I'm very interested in starting my own tree company. And I have a ton of experience. I've worked for Odd Job." They just laid it out to him. And he said, "Matt, I fully support what you want to do. However, that's a extremely dangerous business, huge liability. But if you'll take this waiver home and show it to your parents, and if they'll sign off on it, then you're good to go." And it didn't take my dad 3 seconds to sign the document.
What did the waiver say? I really
It
want
was
to
basically
know.
releasing the school of any liability of me scaling trees every day.
Okay. Well,
Yes.
I'm sure. I was just worried that, the waiver said that, hey, you know what, release the school plus
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
any damage Matt causes you personally are responsible for
Nah,
it.
it was strictly around releasing them if I were to have fallen out of a tree or something. Yeah,
Yeah. Your dad is like, you know what? It's good. I know my son.
that's
He's
right,
been like this since he was
for
4 years
sure.
old. So,
Yeah. But back to your point is yes, I was going to school during the day and then I would go work after, call it 12 o'clock, 12:30.
yeah. Yeah. And how old were you again at this stage? This is high school,
Sophomore
right?
year, so what, 16,
Yeah.
15?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Okay. So you do this, and you continue to manage. Gunnison always was in Georgia, right? Although you
Correct.
were in Tennessee, you were kind of
That's
managing it
right.
remotely. Is that right?
Yeah, so when I was in Middle Tennessee, I was continuing to run my company. I would come home on the weekends and sell work for the week ahead for the crew. And I had one crew and we would line out the week and it was a very challenging time for me because trying to manage a business from a classroom was extremely difficult.
No doubt about it.
And
Yeah.
in fact, there were times that I would like answer my phone in the classroom taking an estimate call, and my professor would be like, "Matt, you
Yeah.
can't do this."
Yeah. But then
Like,
you're like, hey, I'm taking entrepreneurship
that's right.
degree.
I'm showing you guys what entrepreneurship is.
Right?
This is
So, dude, tell me this, my friend. This is a fascinating story. So, how many crews did you have at that time when you were in middle school? One crew, you
so
said.
I just had one crew and it was really, like I said, it was super challenging. We
Yeah.
actually had my main guy, Troy Barker, would have to pick up our climber every morning at the bus stop.
Yeah.
He didn't have a driver's license. And
Yeah.
so there was always some debacle about Jimmy showing up or not. And I
Yeah.
would get phone calls when I'm trying to study and in class. It was a very challenging time in my
I'm
business.
sure, but it's also a phenomenal learning time for you, right?
Yeah,
Both at school as well as probably more at Gunnison than at school, honestly, right? So,
no, for sure.
how much were you doing in terms of revenue back in the day?
Um, when I was at Middle Tennessee, we were generating about 800,000 in revenue.
No kidding,
Yeah. Yeah,
eight hundred
it was pretty
thousand.
yeah, it was pretty healthy.
So
Yeah.
you definitely got out of college debt free.
Yeah, yes. For sure. Yes.
So, wow, for all those kids watching or listening, seriously, struggling to pay for college or, wondering how to go to college. If you really want to do something in America, good old American capitalism, you can figure it out,
That's right.
right? You
That's
really
right.
can figure it out, really. Matt is a living proof. I'm obviously living proof,
Yeah.
right? But your story is so much more fascinating. Middle Tennessee State, you're making $800,000 a year in revenue when you were
Yeah.
barely, uh, you know, first, second year in college, I guess, a
That's
freshman.
right. Correct.
And did the
Yeah.
business grow when you were in college?
It really did not grow very much because it was hard to scale it just not being there, Hari. So
Yeah.
I could only sell so much work on the weekends for the next week. And I could never get it to a point of scale. So it really just kind of stayed stable at 800 grand.
But man, it's serious commitment. In your serious commitment when you're a college kid, going to college, doing your classwork, and understanding that there are a couple of families who are responsible for you're
Yeah,
responsible for
for
selling
sure.
work for them and managing them. Did they feel like they're working for a kid, or did they respect you, or how did you earn their respect there?
They respected me just because when I wasn't at Middle Tennessee, they had worked with me and I actually was working with them every single day and climbing trees. So in our business, like that is how you get the ultimate respect.
You fold your sleeves.
You roll
Play
your
your-
sleeves up and you get dirty and you do what they're doing every day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I had that respect, and they didn't feel like they were working for a kid.
Yeah. Now it's actually interesting you say that, because one of the things I always say is, I have an engineering degree, but many engineers don't necessarily start off in the field. I was fortunate to actually start off in the field, understand the challenges that the guys in the field face,
Yeah,
empathetic towards that, right? The challenges that they face on a day in day basis. To this day, I feel like that has been the greatest. One of the greatest reasons for my success is because I understand their issues and I
correct.
empathize with that. I kind of manage it based on that, right? So,
That's right.
uh, so these guys that you had back in the day, are they still with Gunnison, or have they retired since?
No, Troy went to go work for another tree company. I don't know what he's not with them anymore. I'm not sure what Jimmy's doing. Jimmy actually worked for Odd Job for a long time,
Huh?
and then he came to work for me. Yeah, I don't think either one of them are still in the business, but I could be
Yeah.
wrong. We
What is your
unfortunately,
pitch to Troy and Jimmy when you recruited them? Hey, I'll give you a buck more, $2 more, or you'll have independent. What is your company Gunnison different from other tree
you
businesses?
know, my philosophy with recruiting and hiring good talent, Hari, is I want to compensate everybody well and above industry standards. And I know that seems like a very simple recipe for hiring people because most people are chasing the dollar. But from that point, having them on board and then developing the culture and the respect, like I can kind of take them to the next level. And so and groom them internally. But I would always, hand select. I was able to like intuitively just know when I was making a good hire. I could just, I was blessed with that ability and just to kind of check the pedigree of the employee that I was,
Yeah.
bringing on and made sure we have the same core values
Yeah.
and it worked. But my secret sauce, it was always just like paying people extremely well, taking care of them, acting well. I was always engaged, and I actually cared about their personal life and their families. It wasn't just me blowing smoke.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it was a family
Yeah.
of employees.
Yeah, you were
Uh,
there for them
yes,
during thick and thin. You were there
that's
for
right.
them.
Right.
You were there for them physically, emotionally,
Correct.
mentally. You were there,
Yes.
and they felt like they were not a number in your company.
Correct.
And the extra, few bucks you might have paid for them, you clearly compensated. They clearly compensated for you because you trusted them. At the end of the
That's
day,
right.
a business can go from an entrepreneur, you scaling the trees, rather climbing the trees, to
Yeah.
50, 100 people climbing the tree on your behalf. But you
Correct.
have to have trusted people, especially in a high risk business like
That's right.
tree
Yep.
business, right? So
For sure.
that's fascinating. So you continue to manage your business.
Yep.
You scaled and you graduate out of college with an entrepreneurship degree. Now continue on your story, Matt. This is
Yeah.
fascinating.
So then that's when Gunnison went into high gear. When I got out of Middle Tennessee and came back to Atlanta.
This is 2003.
Yes, correct.
Got it.
Um, I knew that like I was going to pour some fuel on the business, and I was 100% committed. I didn't have school distracting me. I could fully focus on it. So I just really started building the business organically through referrals. And it got to a point where I was getting so many referrals. My business was growing 30% organically every year.
30% organically every year in a business like, service business like a tree care is really high growth, by the way,
Yeah. And
right?
I know that, I mean, it's not sustainable, but like I had 4-year run of just 30% growth every year, minimum. And
Wow.
so it got to a point where instead of me doing the work myself, I had to step back and say, okay, in order for me to continue to grow this business and scale this business, I need to hire true professionals to start doing this work and get climbers, estimators. And so I went out, I had all the work in the world coming to me, and everybody started to hear about Gunnison, and other companies were losing market share. So I just started getting calls from people who wanted to come work for me.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And so there was actually one day we were working in Buckhead, which is just a deciduous forest of trees in Atlanta. It's kind of the high end area. And one of my competitors was working across the street, and this competitor had the best climbers. They were just notorious for hiring the most talented climbers. And those climbers actually walked over to my project and said, "Hey, we just see the momentum that Gunnison has going on right now. We want to come work for you."
Wow.
And so I was like, "All right, well, show me what kind of skills you have." And so they shimmied up these trees and removed some massive branches over this house. And I was just really floored by their capabilities. And so when I hired that crew, that really snowballed Gunnison and our ability to continue to scale into the most technical work in the city of Atlanta. So my reputation, we were known for removing the most hazardous trees in the most difficult situations with the largest equipment. All of my competitors, most of them were doing kind of just routine cookie cutter type tree service offerings, and Gunnison was the company you would call if you had a 80-inch southern red oak hanging over your house. It was half uprooted, and we would bring out our crane and
Wow.
rent a crane at the time and remove it.
So you're not Gunnison Tree Services, you're Gunnison Super Tree Services.
Yes,
So,
yes. I
call the
just figured,
super
I was
gang.
like, I've this is a very saturated space, and I've got to differentiate myself, and this is how I'm going to do it.
Yeah, no. It's super interesting. I definitely did not know about all these nuances of your business, right?
Yeah,
Uh, so you became the company to work for within Atlanta. You
that's right.
attract talent just based on the growth, the momentum you have,
Yes,
and obviously people love to work for young, charismatic leaders, and
right.
you're there, and the company continues to grow. And then what happens after that? So you're still serving homeowners, right? But let me before you go further, let me ask you this question. 30% growth year on year, or if not more. You
Yeah,
hire more people, obviously buy more equipment, right?
yes,
What are some of the challenges you faced, right, with growth? Because let me tell you a couple of challenges generally companies face. You grow outside your comfort zone of the employees that you know, right? Think Power, the first company I started and ran, 0 to 10, everybody I knew. 10 to 50, it is the people that I still knew, right? 50
yeah,
to 100, you go outside your circle. And then beyond that, it's like you really don't know who you're hiring, right? As you
correct,
trust referrals, and we put a great referral program and whatnot. So that's one issue. The other issue is companies run out of money, working capital,
correct.
right? It's
Yes.
like, especially in a business like yours, heavy equipment, you got to invest and whatnot. So walk us through how you manage those two
Yeah, so
challenges
Hari,
or
that's a
other
really
challenges.
good point, question. I mean, to say that that was a challenge is a understatement. I mean, I had extremely supportive parents, but I was always super prideful about not coming to them. My dad made a good living, but he was never like so well off that he just had excess cash just to throw around. So I was too prideful to ever ask my parents for any help financially, even though they would have done anything in the world for me. So I would just, you know, save up enough money, free cash flow to buy a piece of equipment and self fund my operation. But it got to a point where I was growing organically so much and scaling the business that I had to look at alternative options for financing equipment.
Hmm.
And so
It's
at the
like you're
time, I
getting
mean, my balance sheet was zero.
got it.
And, going in, I had some banks, local banks that were really supportive and wanting to do business with me. But that was challenging to get that across the finish line. So I would have to kind of chip it away because they would only give me so much capacity. And I would go out and buy a chipper truck and a chipper and try to pay that off or pay it down significantly to where I could go buy another one. And then just managing cash flow. I didn't have a CPA at the time. I was kind of at best outsourcing that, but it was all on me and QuickBooks and trying to figure that out. And,
Yeah.
I had enough business acumen you know, to zone in on the important aspects of
You had
analyzing
enough
a.
business acumen to know that you're making money, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you had
My
to
my
pay.
my my barometer was, do I have cash in my account?
Yeah, yeah, right. Same here.
Right.
And you were smart enough to know that you had a silent partner in Uncle Sam, and I guess
That's right.
state of Georgia.
Totally.
You had to. Many entrepreneurs miss this. Honestly, I mean, as funny as it may seem, it's actually an important point. I actually know people who made great money one year, let's say
Yeah,
2024, but they don't realize that, hey, next year you have to make quarterly payments
that's
based
right.
on what you made in 2024,
Correct.
prepay your taxes,
Yes.
right? And they miss it, and then end of the year, Uncle Sam comes chasing after them. So obviously you were smart enough to know some of the basics, know that, know your cash flow, and have a line of credit to finance equipment. But it's not easy. Let's put it this
Correct.
way: it's not easy.
Not at all. And so just trying to balance that was really tough.
Yeah,
There were even times where, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make payroll this week. I would have receivables outstanding and I had completed a lot of work and I had revenue on the books, but like I wasn't collecting everything. So,
yeah.
I mean, I can't even tell you how many sleepless nights I had just how am I going to manage through this and make payroll happen?
How did you
And
get through those times, man? Because this is such a fascinating topic. Because I find such a stark difference between people who sign the front of the checks,
yeah,
which is entrepreneurs, versus people who sign the back of the checks and deposit it. I mean, honestly, many corporate people.
right.
I mean, there's room for everybody in America. Obviously, in the
Yeah,
world, you need people of all talents. But the entrepreneurial mindset of actually wanting to make that payroll, the
yes.
challenge, the emotional drain that we all go through. How did you manage that?
It's tough. It just kind of goes back to my comment about just being resilient. I refuse to fail, and I just did everything in my power to make sure things happened. And even though things were out of my control, you know, as an entrepreneur, I got scrappy and was thinking outside of the box about how to solve problems. But like, for example, you know, worrying about making payroll, it would be it would boil down to me driving around these neighborhoods and just walking up to people's houses and collecting checks just so that I could make sure my people were taken care of.
Yeah, because your
It,
reputation is at stake. At that point, if you had to maintain that, reputation for Gunnison to be the place to work,
yes,
you had to make payroll.
that's right.
Matt
Yeah, you
can't
you
be a
miss you
great
miss
guy.
one payroll and it's over.
You're screwed,
Yeah, you're
honestly,
done.
right? So,
Yeah,
so you go through that. You go through this enormous a growth period, 30% year after year,
Yeah.
tough cash flow. You had a line of credit, buying
Yes.
equipments cheaper, all these kind of things, right? You continue to grow. What is your, I mean, did your growth kind of slow down at that point?
It really didn't slow down. I was able to manage through it. I was kind of capitalizing on 179 deduction bonus depreciation.
Yeah.
So whatever equipment I would purchase would kind of offset my tax liability. So I was reinvesting in the business.
Yeah. That's a
But
very, very good uh, federal tax credit, which,
yes,
many entrepreneurs, especially those of you in the business of buying heavy equipment,
right.
I mean, really appreciate it. I know some people who buy this heavy truck and write it off. That's far
Yeah,
and
yeah,
few between. It's not a big deal. But,
correct.
for those in this business, construction business, vegetation management business, who have to invest in equipment, it's a huge tax break. Would you not agree? Incentivizes
Oh,
you to
totally.
invest in the
And for
company.
me, it wasn't like I was just buying equipment to buy equipment. Legitimately needed the equipment.
Sure.
So it wasn't me just trying to offset my taxes. It was, I need this for growth
Yeah.
and I get the benefit of what they've put in place.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
Um, yeah. So to answer your question, like, yes, I was able to manage through that time, even though it was super tight for me. I wasn't paying myself much. I was making sure I was taking care of my people. I was servicing my debt with the bank, but I was continuing to, gain momentum and grow the business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Okay. So still at this stage, which year are we in right now?
we're in, 14.
2014.
Yeah.
Residential is still your primary business.
That's our primary core business. And so what was really a turning point for Gunnison in that time frame was there was a lady forester at Georgia Power, Trudy Brandow, who I had developed a relationship with just being in the community. And, she was always kind of plugged into the tree companies in Atlanta. That was
Yeah.
her primary focus. And she called me one day and said, "Hey, Matt, we've had a relationship with a local tree company. It's a partnership. Two guys own it together, and they're just having a really difficult time just operating together. And they're essentially they're going to shut the business down."
Because they couldn't get along.
Correct.
Got it.
And she said, "Matt, I know that Gunnison is known for their technical capabilities with cranes. Would you be interested in doing some one-off tree removals around our distribution lines where we have identified trees that are hazardous and we're trying to improve reliability?" And I said at the time, "Ari, I mean, I would take on any job whatsoever."
Yeah.
I never said
Of
no.
course. Of course.
And so,
But did you
uh,
know at that time when this lady with Georgia Power, Trudy, did you know at that time when she called you how much of an impact this is going to have on your business?
really didn't at the time. Like, I knew Georgia Power was an incredible customer to have, but I never was able to quantify the volume that could come out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they were testing the waters with me and just kind of giving me a one-off opportunities. I mean, their primary focus is safety
Yeah. Yeah.
first and foremost.
So honestly, for entrepreneurs, one of the key lessons here is embrace the unknown,
Yeah.
take risks,
Yes.
right? And just because you don't know a market, like in this case, you didn't know the utility market on the veg management side, take calculated risks. What's the worst thing that could happen? You could go, theoretically, you could fail. I mean,
Yeah.
business that could be pretty bad, but you know, you still have the residential business to fall back on and
Correct.
run with it. So take chances in life,
That's
right?
right.
Yes, keep
Right.
going.
So Georgia Power, started feeding me one-off removals. The first year was probably $150,000 worth of work. We demonstrated to them that we could do the work safely, efficiently, and cost effectively. So the following year, that was 300 grand. It
Double.
doubled. And then the next year it doubled again. It just kept snowballing and growing. And so we really developed that partnership with Georgia Power.
Yeah.
and just that we were their trusted partner. We had basically like a preservation approach to at Gunnison, where we were not all about just creating sawdust and removing trees, but we were also like the local tree company preserving the canopy in Atlanta. So Georgia Power is always trying to balance that with the customers, with trimming trees and preserving trees. So we were like kind of a one stop shop for them.
Yeah. You knew the local culture,
Yeah,
you knew the local needs, and you knew what they valued. And so, that made a lot of sense. So you
yeah.
continue to grow Georgia
Just
Power.
keep continuing to grow, and then I got into like heavy clearing, DOT, municipality work. Just kept growing my business. At this point, I'm
How did
doing
these businesses come about, Matt? So, I really want to help our listeners understand this. So, obviously residential, that's where you
yeah,
started off with Georgia
yeah,
Power,
yeah.
somebody in the community. How did the rest of the veg
So
management
the
business
Georgia
come about?
TOT work originated. So Georgia Power had a separate unregulated division called Power Services Group, and we had a great relationship with them. And so they started doing or bidding on DOT projects that were open bid projects, and we were their preferred partner. So Power Services Group would land a DOT project,
Got it.
and then Gunnison was their go-to player.
Got it. Because of
So
your work with Georgia Power, right? Obviously.
correct,
Yes.
correct. So at this point in time, Gunnison's doing 15 million of top line revenue. I'm having to constantly reinvest in the business with equipment. I'm growing, I'm cash flowing, but I'm still not just, my liquidity situation has improved a little bit, but it's still tight.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so the DOT work was very specialized with heavy equipment, forestry equipment. So I went out and bought, I invested in $2.5 million worth of equipment to
Wow.
service those accounts. And I bought fell bunchers, excavators, whole tree chippers, everything. I was fully committed.
Got it.
And so that business, in 2017 generated a couple $1 million worth of revenue, the DOT work. And we kept growing every year up until about 2019. And that business just got super saturated overnight. And a lot of competition came in and just started lowballing projects.
Got it.
And these,
Saturated vendors you're talking about,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yes. Okay.
Vendors. And the vendors were not qualified, but they checked the box for the DOT, and all they cared about was who gave us the best price. So at that time, fortunately, I was able to pivot because I had a tremendous amount of investment in this equipment and manpower. And I got a call from Dan Buer at Georgia Power, who was head of forestry and right away. And he said, "Hey, Matt, you guys have demonstrated to us with the routine one off removal work that you guys are capable of doing utility work. Would you be interested in a routine maintenance contract in Savannah and Atlanta, Georgia, which are the two most critical areas for Georgia Power,
Hmm.
keeping the lights on?"
Yeah.
And as I've mentioned already, I never said no. And
Say no.
so that point in my career was super challenging because I was accustomed to working with all the residential tree climbers, and the core fundamentals of that work and utility work are totally different.
Yeah.
And so I had to like reprogram my brain and really focus on hiring the right talent. Um,
You had to go outside your comfort zone.
yes.
Yes.
And so initially, so I was awarded a lump sum bid project in Savannah, and we were geared up, ready to go. One mistake that I made, and it fortunately worked out where nobody got hurt. I started the project using residential tree crews, and within about one day, I said, "You know what? I'm calling timeout.
Yeah.
I'm pumping the brakes. I'm gonna surround myself with people that know this space really well, and I'm going to sit back and I'm going to find the best crews to recruit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I went out.
But kudos to you for that, right? You didn't push through on getting the job done with what was obviously
Correct.
hindsight turned out to be an unqualified crew for that
Yes,
job, right? They're
that's
qualified
right.
for something else, but they're unqualified for the job. You didn't necessarily try to get the job done. You stopped, right? As you know, in the companies I run, human performance is a huge piece of the puzzle. That's what they
100%.
say. It's like, hey, slow down and think about what could happen if something goes wrong. And in this case, clearly, you thought that if you pushed through, this could end in disaster and potentially the end of Gunnison,
That's
right?
right.
Uh,
100%.
yes. So you pull the crew back.
I just said time out. I've got to focus and get the best people to do the job. Otherwise, to your point, Gunnison could be done overnight.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I got I got with some folks, that could help me with recruiting. And I got a hot lead one day from a guy that worked at Davy Tree. And he said, "Hey, I've got this pot of guys. We have 55 guys."
Bottom guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're not happy here, and we're looking for a change. And we know Gunnison's been awarded a bunch of work from Georgia Power.
Huh.
Can we? I was like, "Yeah, Ray. Let's go to lunch and talk. And I just want to make sure this is a good personality fit, and that we're aligned on expectations, and that you want to work for me, and that it's
Yeah.
we're all there
Yeah.
together." And so met with Ray. It was a good fit, and so I hired all these guys overnight,
Wow.
and my payroll went from it skyrocketed.
Well, obviously, 55
Yeah,
guys, man.
that's
So,
right.
yeah.
And so we went in, and I was able to secure some rental equipment at the time because I couldn't afford to go out and buy all brand new trucks. And I made it happen, and we knocked out the project seamlessly, on target, safely, and Georgia Power was super happy.
Yeah.
And so shortly after that, I was awarded the routine maintenance contract in Atlanta, Georgia, and I had to make a significant investment in people and equipment again.
Yeah.
And I went out, and it was about a $6 million equipment purchase that I had to go to the bank and get a loan on, and I had to hire more utility people, and I just kept growing the business organically, and taking small risk, no, not small risk, large risk, really, and putting my name on the line and personally
Yeah.
guaranteeing everything,
Yeah. Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
kept building the business. So now we're at, you know, 25 million of revenue.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
But
yeah,
what it got you there, it's the key piece of the puzzle.
yeah,
There's no reward without risk.
correct.
You clearly had the conviction in yourself, the
Yeah,
belief and the confidence in your own abilities,
yes,
right? You took calculated risks, and you are constantly reinventing yourself, right? Going
correct.
from residential to hiring the best talent to Georgia Power to DOT to, hey,
Yeah,
you know what, I need to pivot from DOT to something that uh, I can do work in a market I know with the equipment that I've already invested in. And then that leads to more challenges. You need to hire better skilled people, or more appropriate skilled people. You hire the right
right.
skilled people, and then you invest more money. uh, the journey is full of twists and turns. You have
Yep,
to constantly reinvent yourself, right?
absolutely,
Yeah, it's not
for
a straight
sure.
line. Keep going. 25 million bucks.
Yeah, so then, I was able to kind of prove out the utility concept with Georgia Power, and I wanted to keep growing my business. So I went after Ray, the guy I hired. He had a relationship with Dominion Energy.
Yeah.
And so I went into their office with Ray and another estimator, sales guy, Andrew, and we met with the forestry group at Dominion. And they had heard good things about Gunnison, and So they were like, all their work is lump sum. It's not hourly work. And so we went out and rode several circuits in the Charleston, Columbia area.
South Carolina,
And
right?
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Sorry. And yeah, and I get awarded a, $9 million contract with
Jeez.
them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So it's all over again. I'm having to hire more people, buy more equipment. But at this point, I've got 200 plus employees. Safety is absolutely paramount in our business.
Yeah.
And so I'm having to really look at the structure of my business and make sure I've got enough coverage in place
Yeah.
with safety personnel, because that is the one thing in our business that can derail the entire program.
I mean, I had an issue. You may or may not know this. As I was scaling Think Power pretty rapidly, 2018. This is a sad story for me, but I'm going to share this anyway. 2018, we won a 5-year, $60 million contract with Entergy, right? And the next day, Matt, believe it or not, there was an incident where we happened to be on the site where it happened. I mean, now it's all done. I mean, the case is settled, so it's all good.
Right.
Right? Um, and we lost that contract, right?
Jeez.
And obviously, we also had to settle and things like that, right? But
Dang. The next
safety,
day, Hari?
literally the next day, right?
Holy.
And it is. But what that told me was we were already on the path to human performance, right?
Yeah.
But I just doubled down on safety and human performance. It just lit a fire on the company, saying, you know what, this could really go wrong,
Right.
right? And so we had to really, really double down on health and safety and human performance, right? So it's a
Absolutely.
big piece of the puzzle. So here you are, 200 plus employees, company's growing, safety is a
Company's going
key piece.
rapidly. The utility business is dangerous, just like anything in the tree business is. And I'm just, having sleepless nights about making sure that I've got a safety presence,
Yeah,
because that was top of mind and the quickest way for me to lose my company overnight.
100%.
And so I was able to secure some really strong safety people that were out patrolling every single day and making sure we were in compliance and building the culture that we wanted to have from a safety perspective. And so, I had some bad hires, I had some good hires, but all in all, we were able to
Yeah.
assemble the right team.
And the key thing with bad hires is, hey, fail fast, right? I
That's
mean, the
right.
minute you know that somebody's not a fit for a variety of reasons, even the most
Correct.
talented people may
Just
not
move
be a
on.
fit for your company, move on quickly. It's good for
That's
them,
right.
good for us,
That's
right?
right.
So, yeah,
Yeah. So after landing, several large investor-owned utility customers and cooperatives, I had a just ton of momentum going, and just the runway for growth was kind of endless. And one day I get an email from an investment banker whose parents were friends with my in-laws,
Hmm.
and I didn't really know the guy. And he reached out and said, "Hey, Matt, have you ever thought about selling Gunnison? Would love to grab lunch and catch up." And I blew the email off for like a couple weeks. He followed up with me, and I was just at the time I was like, I'm growing my business. I like what I'm doing. I don't think my business is worth anything
Yeah,
really,
yeah, that's what everybody thinks,
and
right? So,
and it's just like, what am I going to do? So I take a lunch with this guy, and he's asking me, some high level, what's your top line revenue look like, and what is your EBITDA? And I never measured my business from an EBITDA perspective.
none of us do. I mean,
Hell,
honestly,
I hardly knew what it was.
I know. I mean, first,
Yeah,
first companies, most entrepreneurs, they don't really understand it.
correct.
Because you really, but you measure your cash and things like that. You may not
Yeah,
even have a very great financial statement because you're hiring a CPA. Some of us get lucky getting a great CPA. Some of us are not so lucky, right? So it happens.
right. And so I eventually take a lunch. We talk about it. He gives me kind of back a napkin, let me look at your financials and I'll calculate what your EBITDA is. And he's educating me on the process of going to market and talking to different strategics and private equity firms and what multiple that I could potentially get paid on my EBITDA. And so I finally said, you know what? I'm ready to de risk a little bit. I've taken risks my entire life, and I want to partner with a strategic partner that's going to help me grow the business and provide capital and really management and helping with hiring. And at the time, I was still wearing 1,000 different hats.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I initially started with not wanting to sell majority of my company.
Yeah.
And David, my advisor, was like, that's fine. There's a market for minority partnerships.
Minority recaps. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
there's plenty of them out there. And so we went through a process, didn't go broadly. It was a small group. And I went under LOI with a group in Atlanta. And at the time, Gunnison was still doing a fair amount of DOT work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the margin on that work was if you bid if the competition was busy and they couldn't bid on work, you could hit a home run.
Yeah.
And so my margin profile for that work was astronomical.
If they're not busy.
Yeah. It's the other, yeah. So we lock horns with this group and we're getting towards, kind of the finish line. They've done all their due diligence.
And this
There's
is for a minority recap.
correct. Yes,
Yes.
correct.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yes.
And so we get down to the finish line, and right as we're, 30 days out from closing, the competition just races into the DOT work and just completely sabotages the market.
Explodes, huh?
And I just go from, you know, couple million of, 50% margins to zero.
Jeez. Wow.
And so they understandably so got, I guess, for lack of better words, a little spooked
Yeah.
in their underwriting process, and I understand.
Yeah.
But I was frustrated,
And the deal
and
falls apart, right?
yeah, and I had deal fatigue, and so David said, "Hey Matt, just take a deep breath. Let's just continue to prove out the utility business and what you've created and scaling that,
And which
and
year was
then
this? Which year did
what
the deal fall apart?
that was in 2018."
Okay, got it.
And so get down, that whole deal falls apart. And Dave, and I'm still just my personality. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna be
You're resilient.
resilient.
I
Yeah,
mean, honestly, that comes over again and again and
yeah,
again.
and
You
that
know,
really benefited me. So David, my advisor, was like, Matt, okay, you've proven out the utility concept. You're in a really good position to go back out to market. However, I would recommend that you contemplate doing a majority transaction. I feel like there's a better buyer pool for you in kind of the partnership that you're looking for. And so I was like, okay, I'm good with that. He walked me through it. And so we went out and we ran another it was just a small market of private equity investors in the Southeast. And I interviewed several of them, one strategic, and I ended up, you know, partnering or partnering with Warren Equity out
yeah,
of Jacksonville, Florida. And it was more of just their core investment thesis and what they were investing in, and they had a major focus on the utility space. And I just felt like I would get a lot of benefit out of them, not just providing capital, but actually operational experience.
yeah,
And they were extremely bullish on acquisitions and putting money to work and buying companies and rolling them up and integrating them. And so that happened in May of 2020.
got it, got it.
Um,
I mean, honestly, for the listeners, that's how you and I met.
that's right.
When I was going through my majority recap, uh, I was kind of calling on references, and Matt and I connected instantly, honestly, right? at a very high level. And one of the reasons I did the deal, candidly, to this day, truly is because of Matt Cathell. So you did the deal May 2020.
Yeah, did the
Obviously,
deal May of 2020. We didn't even have a corporate team built out at this point in time.
at this point, it's all you, right?
Correct.
Yes.
It's all me. We immediately had identified a couple acquisition targets, and the main sponsor over at Warren Equity was like, "All right, let's go. Let's get some acquisitions going," which I appreciated. It was
Yeah.
my speed of operating, and we were aligned from that perspective. And so we bought a company in December of 2020. That was our first deal.
It was pretty quick, man.
Yeah, sizable company, 30 million of revenue. I mean, healthy company,
Yeah.
all utility focused.
Yeah.
And then we bought a company in April of 21 and then May of 21. And then at that point, Warren was like, all right, we need to help assemble the corporate team.
Probably a little too late.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I mean, I was drowning with everything that was going on, but in their defense, they were supportive and helped, but they helped with the entire hiring process of,
Honestly, I really want to ask you this. Having been through the journey myself, right? Having gone through a transaction, after
yeah,
buying companies, integrating them. By the time I integrated the acquisitions I made, I had a full management team and a top class management team.
yeah.
Best in class CFO and Larry LeBlanc, phenomenal CEO and Dan Hellman, great CHRO and David Chandler, who all of you you've kind of in some ways interacted with, right?
Right.
Had a full slate of a management team. How on earth did you do it by yourself? Honestly, I mean, just baffles me.
Man, it baffles me too, Hari. I don't even know. Like, just thinking back, like, I don't know how I wore that many hats.
Yeah,
And it wasn't healthy.
yeah,
Um, but it just, I don't want to, abuse the word resilient, but it just helped me
yeah.
just adapt and
Tenacious.
overcome
Yeah, yeah.
and just
Tenacious,
be,
resilient, and all these
yeah,
kind of things helps, right?
yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, so we assembled the corporate team in 2021 in the summertime, COO, let's see, CFO, business development or CCO, IT, the whole deal.
yeah,
And then we were continuing to just kind of just go after acquisition targets.
yeah. Which you
And
did,
s- and which we
and
did. We completed 12 in a year and a half.
oh my
Yeah.
God. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
That's nuts. And then you integrate all of them.
Integrated all of them. They were in the Northeast, the Mid Atlantic, the Southeast, South Central, just all over the place.
Yeah.
Primarily all utility companies.
Yeah. So, this is an important piece of the puzzle, right? Because you integrate these companies uh, uh, and the company grows drastically and then you're recognized for your efforts. I mean, listen, honestly, Matt, not everybody has done what you've done. Start a company, grow it, sell it to a private equity, continue to be a CEO,
Yeah.
acquire 12 companies, successfully integrate them, and then for all these achievements, Ernst& and Young recognized you as the EY Entrepreneur of the Year in 2022. Is that right?
Right. That's right.
That's really a stunning deal, right? I know you don't care much for awards and recognitions, but
Yeah. I
it
mean,
is
a
a
good friend of mine
significant piece.
encouraged me to, put my name in the hat. And I'm glad he did because that's not my typical personality of, just trying to be out there in front of people. And I'm kind of a recluse in that manner.
Yeah.
I kind of hide behind the scenes but yes, I'm glad I did that. And that was a great award to get. I met a lot of great folks that I've been able to network with and establish relations with over time.
Yeah. So tell me this, right, for the listeners, starting a business, growing it, selling it, integrating it, what is more challenging, running a big business, starting a business, or it's different challenges at different times? What's your take on that?
It's just different challenges, starting a business and taking it from 0 to 1. is just that is on a totally different level than having something that's established and having a robust team that's helping you out and
Yeah.
managing people. And it's more, you know, tactical, I guess, in
Yeah.
nature, kind of day to day and putting out fires when you're starting a company. And then once you get to the growing your business from bootstrapping it from and taking it from 0 to 1, you know, very tactical in nature, obviously. And then having a business that's already put together, um, you know, and on the corporate side, it's just more of like kind of strategic planning. It's just a different skill
Yeah.
set.
It's
I
it's
wouldn't
like
say
yeah, it's like it's like you take the jet off and then you have to fly the jet at some
correct,
point, right?
correct,
Yeah.
correct. But it's both. They're both entrepreneurial in nature, but the way that I'm wired, and I know you're wired, Hari, it's just like we get its satisfaction out of being entrepreneurs, and
Zero to
that's how
one.
we're built.
Yes.
And for me personally, like I didn't thrive as much in a corporate environment as I did just being very hands on
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur building the business.
Yeah. Listen, I've been fired many times, right, from corporate environments. So
Yeah,
obviously, it clearly tells you where my
that's right.
skills are, right?
That's right.
So that's fascinating. So, Matt, as we kind of wind down
Yeah,
right, the beautiful journey you've had, uh, what's your take? I mean, you're in a very, let's call it as a hard hat business, hard
yeah,
hat, steel toed boots business, right?
right.
What is the impact of AI in a business like vegetation management, right? How do you think it's going to impact your business?
You know, Hari, I don't ever see like AI taking over guys trimming trees, at least in our lifetime. However, you know, the business that you've created and built at Think Power, you know, having those tools, I could see from a planning perspective and helping utilities with identifying, you know, hazardous trees. I think there's definitely a play there. But as far as, you know, replacing your traditional hard hat tree trimmer, you know,
Yeah,
I don't know that that's in the near future. Now,
yeah,
I don't, it wouldn't surprise me if some brilliant guy came up with some drone, which I know they've explored, but it hasn't been conquered yet.
yeah. Now, you know what I've seen is some utilities do. I'm sure Georgia Power, your customers may be doing it. Is like you're right. Planning, right?
Yeah,
Using LiDAR data to better plan veg management. AI analytics combined with LiDAR data to better plan veg management, right? Centerpoint Energy is able to predict outages, which fews are going to have outages based on the path of the storm, and
right,
hence, line up veg management crews ahead of the storm so that they can kind of uh, trim trees ahead of time, right?
right.
So those are the kind of impact that I see happening. Do you see things?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and instead of going 100 miles trimming everything on the pathway, more focused trimming, and
Absolutely.
things like that, right? So
Correct. That's right.
yeah. So, no, that's great. My friend,
Yeah,
fascinating discussion. Thank you so much for being on the show,
absolutely.
the entrepreneurial journey that you shared. I learned a lot about you, honestly. Right? I think we're
I
gonna
know there
have
were probably some things that we didn't talk about before that you learned. Yeah, you learned
yeah,
today.
absolutely. Listen, it's a fascinating journey. I think there's more we can actually talk and share with our audience.
Yeah,
Let's do one more round,
let's
round
do it
two down the road.
for sure.
But appreciate you being on the show. Good
Yeah,
luck on your journey and
yeah. All right. Thanks for putting this together. I think a lot of kids, you know, can learn what their future holds if they just pursue their passion. So,
pursue their passion. Be resilient
yeah,
and not let their own shortcomings define them,
that's
right?
right.
Because we all have
Totally.
something,
That's right.
right? Overcome your adversity, be
Yes,
resilient, and push through.
for sure.
Everybody can be successful.
That's right.
If you want to go to college, there's a way to pay for it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You take care, my friend.
All right, Harry. See you, man.
Coming up next on From Boots to Boardroom.
Having a great CPA ultimately can save many millions of dollars in a transaction. Maybe it's millions, maybe it's tens of millions, maybe it's just tens of thousands of dollars when the dust settles. But a good CPA really can help a business owner.
In the next episode of From Boots to Boardroom, we sit with Jeremy Dubo. Jeremy is the founder and CEO of Prosperity Partners, one of the fastest growing accounting firms in the United States. At just 25, he walked away from a fast-track career at Arthur Andersen, climbed the tallest mountain in the Western Hemisphere, and returned to build something of his own. A trusted advisor to entrepreneurs, he helps founders navigate tax strategy, equity, and high-stakes mergers and acquisitions, from startup to exit. This is a conversation about risk, leadership, and building lasting value. Stay tuned.